All right, so welcome to our talk, Pwning the Hapless, or Why Your Security Program Sucks. We just want to give a quick shout out to BSides for having us, to all of you for coming, and to our mentor Martin Fisher for helping us do this, and his support, guidance, and excellent advice.
And amount of patience. So we're going to begin our discussion with a few scenarios. This is Barbara, and she works for BDSM, which stands for Big Data Smart Marketing. They provide market value to corporate catchphrases.
So we're not trying to juggle back and forth here, but so BDSM, small company, has a small security staff, and they've implemented all the current blinky light solutions, and now they've started going down the path to developing a security awareness program. The program currently consists of your typical phishing campaigns against the company, the yearly CBTs, computer-based trainings, and other stuff that we would expect. So Barbara is a non-tech employee at this company. She's gone through the yearly training just like all of her other peers, and she has undergone the computer-based training as well that's required. So one thing to keep in mind about Barbara, though, like many of her peers, is that she doesn't really understand the difference between the printer fixers and us security gods. We're just all IT to her. Oops.
So she gets this amazing looking email from a source that she doesn't immediately recognize, but it appears to be legit. So she clicks the link, because what's the worst that could happen, right?
Well, this probably isn't going to happen, otherwise we'd be having a lot more fun. We have to ask ourselves why. Why, despite all the money we're spending on training and teaching her not to do this stuff, is she doing it or is falling into this trap? So this is a simple example of her email inbox. You have to keep in mind that at her position, she's getting a lot of email from different departments, her manager. She's got links to click on for her annual reviews. She has reports that her finance is sending her to review. She also gets, the crazy cat videos to click on and see those. And my biggest pet peeve, and I'm sure all of us have experienced this exact same thing, is all those emails, click here to activate your account, or click here to reset your password. So at this point, she's desensitized to this training. There's a cognitive dissonance between what we are asking her to do, don't click shit, in real life.
This is an experience that's actually happened to me. I worked for a large insurance company. I was a newer employee, got a sketchy looking email. Being a little bit more security minded than your average bear, I noted that it was sketchy. I could remember that they told us we had a single point of contact we had to reach out to forward it. Couldn't remember who it was. Of course, they didn't give us any handouts. So I went to our intro website, to the IT page, to see what I could find. 5, 6 clicks in, still couldn't find it. And while I'm dedicated, not dedicated enough to sit through a 25-minute CBT to find that one piece of information on the last slide. So I called our help desk. The guy on the end of the phone, who's paid, $7.25 an hour, didn't know. People around him didn't know. His manager wasn't there for the day. So he told me I should probably click it just because he wanted to see what happened. So I hung up on him because that was excellent advice. And I looked up our VP of security on Outlook and then instant messaged him for the information. He got a little pissy with me about it. So I ask you, who is going to know what to look for if you're a non-tech employee and not click it, know not to click it, and then go through all that hassle to find out where to send it? So, brief intro, I'm Emily. I'm very non-tech. I'm an insurance specialist working in disability. I've worked for 3 of the top 25 disability companies in the world in the past 10 years, where I go by, or I answer to, hey, Emily, you know weird stuff, answer this. I grew up, my father is an electrical engineer who's worked in computers since the punch card days. So, like I said, I'm a little more security-minded and I have a keen awareness of the roles computer plays in our lives. I'm currently an active member of TOOL, and I'm working on my master's in social work.
So I'm Casey, and I have been a developer most of my life, very passionate about security. Also an active member of TOOL, frequent volunteer here at BSides Boston, Source Boston, so I make it around.
So we all know that data is our business, no matter what your industry is, whether it be financial, medical, insurance. You are required to safely house and transmit data to and from trusted parties. You lose the data, lose your customers, lose business, and lose money. Working in the fields of insurance and disability, I've seen multiple trained, intelligent employees make these mistakes over and over again. These are the numbers that Verizon gave us for 2013, and as you can see, of the confirmed breaches, which is 2% of reported security incidents, 15% of those were due to security lapses. 15% of 2% may not seem like a big number, but each security breach affected up to hundreds of thousands of pieces of personally identifiable information, or PII, which can be sold for money. Of those breaches, 28 were healthcare breaches that affected 1.1 million records. So 1.1 million people had their medical records breached. A fourth of the companies that were breached were small companies. Small company is defined as 1 to 101 employees. And a data breach for a company like that is not just detrimental to their marketing or advertising their brand name or their stock value, but it can be fatal to them. Money is also important in this. We throw a lot of money in the way of security, thinking that it will solve it or Band-Aid it for us. In 2013, again, $80 billion was spent on fraud awareness. Half of that, $40 billion, was spent on medical identity prevention alone. That's a lot of money. That's how much the feds cut from food stamp reform in 2013. It's like swimming duck money. So why is all of this still failing us?
So before we move further on, I just want to address a couple of myths about security awareness I feel particularly strong about and really contrarian to Bruce Schneier. One, I do not believe that employees are stupid. And two, I most importantly do not believe training is useless. I do, however, believe that most of the security awareness programs we have in place are useless. They don't achieve their intended results. They don't attract the attention of the business, its employees, and most importantly to me, do not create a culture of care around the security issues, which we'll talk about later. There are changes we can do to make this better. They're not quick, not easy, and definitely not as much fun as riding around on a fire-breathing goat-corn playing a trumpet. So we all know here we can get anyone to click a link. It's not easy, or it's not hard. It's actually pretty easy to do. If we have employees at RSA, Google, and who knows what other tech giants are consistently falling for the same issues, how do we expect employees at a non-tech company who are non-technical to not fall for the same stuff? It's insanity to expect that.
So going back to Barbara, how can we make it better for her and her other non-tech employees? We want you to think about your security training program as an excellent marketing tool or advertising tool. You're advertising security. You're advertising what it is, how to prevent lapses in it, and how your employees can benefit from it. Your message is competing with a lot of noise every day, not just what people do for a living and all the emails and phone calls that they get, but all the things that they can access from their computers at work, Pinterest, Facebook, and their iPhones are sitting right there too. So why are they going to listen to your message when they can get to level 98 of Candy Crush, or, you know, how to knit the coolest mustache for hipsters on Pinterest? So keep in mind that you are thinking again about advertising and marketing. These have a few things in common, and someone we know actually touched on this. Bob Rudis did a great talk at Source Boston in 2012, where he touched on that your security training should be the 4 C's.
So the first C that we're going to talk about here is creative. You have to have a creative program. And we all, like most people when beginning a security awareness program, maybe start with the company-wide phishing and stuff like that. That's great. Let's kind of move beyond that. What if we, so one example is, what if we created a piece of fake malware that we attach to that stuff, if possible? This isn't going to be true for all industries, but we might be able to make it work. It can do something innocuous, add a pop-up, or just, you know, change the desktop background. But what we're actually using this for is to see what happens. Does the user report it? Does the user report it and the help desk or whatever ticketing system or program you have set up, does it get worked on? Does it just get dropped or ignored? You'd want to know about those things. Often these are signs that something else is wrong, and you want users to be aware of it and to report it. Also, one thing I found very effective is if there is something in the news about a breach or some type of security lapse or just an interesting article, if it is at all relevant to your business or industry, write something up on it and email it to your staff. Just if it's a breach, for instance, maybe add some stuff about how it is or is not relevant to your technology stack, or what you've done to prevent this from happening, or if this did happen, how you would remediate it. Employees like that. And one thing I've done, as I'm sure most of us here do, I watch data dumps. I look for my personal accounts and my information out there. Now, not everyone's going to be able to do this, trolling Twitter for these archive releases. But Troy Hunt has a great site, haveibeenpwned.com, and you can register a domain like @company.com, and you can get notified if any of your company's emails are in any of these data dumps. I actually did this for our company and then sent an email to the staff saying, hey, this is what I've done, and just watching out. That led to further conversations about it. People started asking questions about the site and why I was doing it, and they left that conversation, then went on to sign themselves up for it, or their friends or their personal accounts. So it's an opportunity to create a discussion around that. That's going to be more poignant and more to the point than any of your normal emailings or anything else you would do.
So this also leads to using all of your mediums available, not just digital, because we know email newsletters are all too easy to ignore in everyday life. Think about what you can do to print out and discussions as well. Create an easy, recognizable logo, again, back to marketing, that everybody can recognize. Easy recognizable, and put it on all of your communications. Print out something that has your security context on it, what to look for, so they can put it next to their phones and their computers. If it's at their fingertips, they're going to use it. They don't have to search for it. It's right there. This is where it starts to affect their workflow and your security. And also, you're keeping track of all of this information from the phishing campaigns and everything else, so why not print it or publish it internally annually like Spider Labs does or Verizon does externally. Infographics are great for this. They're really popular right now. Huge, colorful ones posted in common community spots are great.
So the second C is compelling. You have to make it matter. Good advertising is a call to action. If you want your employees to be involved in a security program, you need to make them want to be. If you make your security awareness program more about making sure the employees themselves are secure and not primarily just a company thing, then they're going to be more inclined to trust you. And that means maybe helping them out with some personal stuff too if you have time. But it's worth doing because they will really appreciate it. And most of the time, they're actually looking for help on this anyways. In order to be involved, they need to know how to. And so you start with the basics. Just set up a email catch-all security@whatever.com and just get your employees to start sending stuff to it. It may mean triaging of more stuff, but you set up a canned response and just send, hey, thanks for your input, we'll take a look at it, etc. Getting them to acknowledge issues and to report them is the first step of the battle. You don't want to lose it before it starts, which, kind of like Emily's story, is another really good point, is do not give them shit for doing so. If they reach out to you and they feel like they're wasting your time or you're making them feel stupid for doing it, you failed. There is no security program. The ones that are reaching out to you are going to be your evangelists. They will actually be able to spread your program or your trainings further along than you are going to be able to do. Friends trust friends.
It's also a good point to embed the security staff with all of their departments within your company. Have them go to different meetings, have them do job shadows or ride-alongs. If your employees know who your security staff and can recognize them, they're going to know who to call, whose face they need to look at when they have a question or a concern. So the third C is continuous. The most successful advertising campaigns are the ones so ingrained in our society that we don't even notice they're there, or if they're horribly misspelled on a slide. Coca-Cola is the second most recognizable phrase in the world behind OK, and 94% of the world's population recognizes the logo. But that doesn't prevent them from spending more annually on advertising and marketing than Apple and Microsoft combined. $2.9 billion in 2010, despite these numbers. So your InfoSec training, like good advertising, should not just be given annually, but on an ongoing, continuous basis. It should be available to everybody who wants access to it, everybody who needs access to it, and everybody who doesn't, but needs it anyway. It should also be available in multiple places and part of their everyday workflow. They shouldn't have to go outside of their normal workflow to find out what to do. The program itself also needs to be updated and changed and bettered on a continuous basis. You can't use the same canned slides every year. I've done this. I've gone to HIPAA training. The first slide, date changed. Everything else, the same. It didn't really make a really great impact on me. So again, be the department that's as available and annoying and present as sales and marketing. Because if they know you, they know your face, they'll know who to go to. They can't just see you once a year when you have to complete a CBT or when you screw something up really badly, because then they're not going to like that. The fourth C is...
Cupcakes.
That's actually My daughter wanted to help, so we let her do that one. Cupcakes are awesome. The fourth C is actually customized. Make it your own. Make it different for your industry. What matters in medical is not going to matter for financial, etc. Stop buying canned CBTs and email campaigns from third-party vendors. We don't like them. We don't pay attention to them. Customize it also per your departments, because what matters, again, to financial or sales is not going to matter to customer service reps. Remember specifically who your audience is. The senior VP of sales and finance doesn't even see the same UI or the same information or have access to the same things as customer service representation. Stop using stock images. I don't know about you guys, but I've never actually worked with that really toothy, smiley brunette with the headset. Anybody else? No, I didn't think so. And stop using stock videos, because if those worked, we wouldn't really have to worry about sexual harassment, and we know that still goes on.
So, depending on where you work in your industry, you may still have some type of annual training that's required or some type of computer-based training that's required. That's great. Get your employees into it and out of it as quick as possible, especially if they are required to do it on their own time, which is stupid. But anyways, just like the PCI is not your security program, neither is the CBT your security awareness program. Moving on to our next scenario, we have Brad. Brad is a coworker of Barbara and has a really busy day. He wants to get out early because the Red Sox are going to be kicking ass against the Yankees, and he wants his $1 PBRs and 50-cent wings. So he, despite policies and all these controls that might be in place, he emails some customer records to his personal email account so he can work on them from his iPad or whatever at home. Now, why does he do this, despite, supposedly all the training and everything else?
Because he's awesome. So to quote Bill Gates, I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because he will find the easy way to do it. I'm going to actually better that by saying a lazy person will find the easy way to do any job, not just a lazy one. And anybody who's raised an 8-year-old knows this to be true, at least in our house anyway.
So another reason why Brad doesn't do this the proper way, he doesn't log into VPN to his work email from his work laptop, etc., is there are extra steps. It's cumbersome. I've used some pretty crappy VPN programs, and I don't blame him for that. But you need to keep this in mind when you're reviewing applications that you're using at your company, both internal and external, as to how people are going to work around them. What are the lazy ways to do the job or not to do it? You have to keep that in mind. This will also let you know what other people might be doing before it bites you in the ass later.
So again, another scenario actually happened. I saw it at a different insurance company. I had a clinician, a nurse I was working with, and she had to get out early, so she sent herself medical files to her Gmail account because that, safe recipient, it's just her. She completed a medical review, saved it in a Word document with a lot of PII at the top, name, date of birth, medical record, identification number, all of that. Then she attached it to the original email, sent it back to herself at work, where she then forwarded it through the department because, hey, why not let everybody know we screwed up? So she didn't understand what was wrong, so she couldn't care about it. How can you know not to do something if you don't know what you don't know?
So there's no bulletproof solution for this. There's no technology you can buy that's going to fix this. But if you have really created a culture of care that permeates the business, and specifically the employees that you're targeting, then they'll be more inclined to take some of those extra steps if they really care about what's going on and understand why that's the way. It's not going to work all the time, but it will work. If someone should be aware of a policy, you need to make them care about it. You can't just send them a giant email with a bunch of 8-point font and get them to understand it. You have it, but that's not what you need to disseminate to them. You also need to look out for... No, it's you.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So the easy way to do something should also be the secure way. It shouldn't be extraneous or an external step to what they do every day. Look out for impediments to getting the job done safely and securely, and then work to remove those. Because you're not only helping make things more secure, you're also making their business easier and removing complexity. If a release of PI is done accidentally and they report it, give them kudos. Do not blame them. Do not give them detriments. This is really important. Again, they're your evangelists. You don't want to burn them. If somebody has gone through the training, though, and continues to do irresponsible, purposeful disclosure or release, that should affect their job performance. If you have the information at your fingertips on how to do something correctly, you've read the set standards, it should affect your job performance. It should be just like any other policy. This is something that you'll have to communicate to business, but it's important.
So we've talked a little bit about security awareness from the user perspective, and I'm going to briefly touch on security awareness as to the developers. This is an entirely talk on its own, which I probably will be planning, but really brief here. This is Chrissy. Chrissy likes shoes. She works for BDSM. She's also stealing data. Now, she's putting the company at considerable risk. More so, she's reselling it to fund her shoe habit. So she's potentially putting the company at far more risk than any external attacker can do. It's also in a way that's going to be extremely difficult to catch, if not after the fact. She needs access to information to do her job. Oftentimes, the application she's using is providing way too much. Now, what can we do about this? What can we as security people help do about this? So one thing we can do is we can work with the developers and be another voice against the business saying, no, we don't need access to information. Instead of making tasks data-centric, let's try making task-centric. Examine that workflow and what they're actually trying to do. It'll help you identify what data they actually need to access. And I don't care what the business says, not everyone needs to see all the data all the time on every screen.
So this is an actual screenshot of an application I've used. Also remember that people will give out information if it's there in front of them. We know this from social engineering discussions. If they have it available to them, they're going to give it out because it's sitting there. So this is especially true for low-trained, low-paid employees. Keep that in mind when creating UIs.
So yeah, and to follow up with that, I've actually done social engineering against a company that I was using to get the last 4 social of some people just by simply saying, no, that's not my social. My social is like 6742. Why do you have that wrong? So we can help streamline this. If you need to validate information, don't let the person just read the information off. Enforce like restrictions upon like putting the information in, just like we do with passwords. Don't tell them what's wrong with it. Just say, no, it's wrong. That will also restrict them from being able to fish for information, like by just going to different accounts and grabbing the information out. Make this like an impediment to actually accessing the information, or at least on the part side of the application where they should be on a phone with an actual user.
So to summarize, thinking about successful marketing campaigns, your security program is going to be a successful marketing campaign. So it needs to be the 4 C's. It needs to be creative, compelling, continuous, and customized.
So actually, I think there's 5 C's, and the 5th one is communication. All of the other 4 C's depend upon communication. The greatest security program in the world is going to fail if it cannot be communicated effectively.
Marketing, in effect, is communication. If you effectively communicate your message and what your purpose is, people will understand it. Thinking back through all of our scenarios, the first one, Barbara, if she had been communicated what to look for and when and who to contact, she wouldn't have clicked the link. If Brad had been communicated why he wasn't a safe recipient and who to contact so he could safely access his information from home, he wouldn't have afforded himself PII and risked that information. And on the third one, if developers and business and security had effectively communicated with each other, they would have been able to determine who needs what information when. And Chrissy wouldn't have been able to access PII unnecessarily.
So we just want to finish up by saying thank you. Thank you to BSides for having us. Thank you to our mentor, Martin, for helping us out. And most importantly, thank you to all for coming and watching our talk. You are making BSides what it is, and we really appreciate that. So again, thank you. So we will be releasing the slides and stuff here, and along with citations and references for our stuff. It's not up yet, and I'm going to have a really busy week, so it might not be up until next week or so. But feel free to follow us on Twitter. I'll announce it there. We have a few more minutes, but I mean, if anyone has any questions, we'll take them. But otherwise, we're going to go to the bar.
And if you don't like the art, screw you. You guys didn't have to draw.
Yeah, Emily drew all of these slides, and we were writing this talk at like Thursday night, and I was working Friday, and we drove to Virginia, which is like a 9-hour flight or drive, and then flew to here. So we basically finished this talk a few days ago, and I've been like, I really want to rewrite everything, but we can't.
So thank you guys. We appreciate it.